Welcome back, Camden Catholic. So we're gonna kind of pick back up where we left off in class. We kind of finished up talking about some of our Northern Renaissance artists, our Albrecht Dürrs, our Jan van Eycks, our Hieronymus Bosches, right? Talking about how they were from greater lands up north of Italy, like Germany, England, Norway, Netherlands, France, places like that, right? We talked briefly about the differences between Northern and Italian art, between color usage, figures in the paintings, patronage, things like that, right? Talked about how the printing press impacted that, but let's keep going because we also talk heavily about writing when we talked about the Italian Renaissance as well. Now, I don't have any architecture for you from the Northern Renaissance. Oh, wait, yes, I do. So I'll show you that in a sec. Now, one of the cool things about the writers from the Northern Renaissance artists, though, is your guy William Shakespeare was one of them. He was a playwright focused on realistic characters, right? He focused a lot on realistic characters, but he also rebirthed old historical ones. Like, for example, Romeo and Juliet is the story of Mark Antony / Julius Caesar and Cleopatra, right? That's another old story. All kinds of stuff, right? Now, anyway, so another big one was your boy, Sir Thomas More, right? Wrote about Utopia, or the perfect society, right? Poor Sir Thomas More. Okay, now, so Thomas More also plays another very, very large proponent in society when we get into the Reformation as well. So we'll get to him later on, so don't worry about that. He was actually sent by King Henry VIII to the Pope to try and make it so he could get a divorce, but we'll get there one day, well, don't worry. So, architecture-wise, this is a very good example of Northern architecture. This is, what's it called? This is William Shakespeare's Globe Theater, all right? Write that down, his Globe Theater. Now, a couple of big major differences between the Globe Theater and its rebirthing of old styles is it is a rounded amphitheater, right? Rounded all the way around the edges, just like the Odeons of ancient Greece, right? Just like the one that Pericles gave free seats to the poor in. This is much like that. It actually goes all the way around instead of the straightforward stylings of a more Middle Ages cathedral or church-like theater. Now, other really, really cool things about it is these are called the penny seats down here. So these are the penny seats, and this is actually where all the poor people went to go watch the play from closer up, and they paid less. But also they had to stand the entire time. There was like hay down there and stuff like that. All the wealthier people sat up in these balcony areas or your mezzanine areas, right? So anyway, now we're getting into about the Northern Renaissance and its big themes. We talked about the Italian Renaissance and its big themes. And the Renaissance serves as a jumping off point of intelligence coming back from the Middle Ages. This is the other thing, though. With intelligence comes questioning, right? When you are intelligent, you question things, right? Everybody does. All you guys do it because you're smart kids all the time. You're like, why do I have to do this homework? Why do I have to do this? Why do we need to learn history? Blah, 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 blah. So, main thing is, though, questions are going to lead to people to use humanist ideas to question the central force in their lives. What is the central force in most people's lives during this time? It's the what? That's right. So they begin to question the church. Now, remember when we talked about how some popes have been starting to seize more power, and there were feuds between popes, and the popes of Avignon started literally saying, well, I'm the pope. No, I'm the pope. No, and it was all over financial gain. Well, this is going to result in this thing called the Protestant Reformation, which is a movement that split the church in Western Europe and led to the establishment of a number of new churches. So, due to the Protestant Reformation, we now have several denominations of Christianity. We have different denominations like Baptist, Presbyterian, Methodist, Calvinist, Lutherans, all these different types of Christians. It's not just Catholics anymore. So, remember that. Protestant Reformation is a very important thing because they are trying to cut this word out, cut that word out. They are trying to do what? R-E-F-O-R-M. They are reforming the church, right? So, and Protestant as in protesting the Catholic Church, right? Now, anyway.
Yarp.
So, let's keep going. The church fell subject to financial corruption, to abuse of power, immorality, and popes got caught up in very worldly affairs, right? Like competing with kings and princes for power. So, started getting caught up in affairs like those, started actually questioning, trying to gain as much money as they possibly could, started paying artists to decorate the Vatican and other big churches with these gigantic, gorgeous paintings that didn't really need to be there because St. Benedictine says that you have to, you should not be in pursuit of Money, you're all about what? What are you all about? What are you all about? Good job, Harrison. Poverty, right? Poverty is one of the rules under the Saint Benedict. So why does a church need all of these nice things? It's a very immoral thing, right? So now, popes led very well. They supported the arts. They hired artists to beautify their churches, like I just said. To finance new projects, the church began to charge high fees for services like marriages and baptisms, right? So they're going to be like, all right, if you want to get married, you owe us X amount of dollars. Well, since it's a sacrament underneath the church, to be able to go to heaven, you must be baptized. Should you be charged for that? No, because that's not fair to the poor, right? Also, here's the grimiest thing the church did. They started to begin to sell these things called indulgences, right? An indulgence. Well, what an indulgence is it's a lessening of the time that the soul is supposed to spend in purgatory. Now, remember, so purgatory is the waiting room for heaven, right? We're going to talk about that here in about 2 seconds. But should you be allowed to pay money to forgive a sin? No, again, it's not fair to the poor, right? So an indulgence is supposed to be a good deed, a thing you do that is good to actually atone your own soul, not a thing that can be bought and sold. But what churches began doing is literally writing on a piece of paper, all right, that sin you just confessed for, it's now forgiven. Give me some money, right? So this is very, very immoral. And one quick reminder, don't forget, purgatory is where the soul atones for sins that are not bad enough to go to hell. We talked about Dante and his Divine Comedy, his mountain of purgatory, right? You spend an X number of years there because you're being punished for not being able to get into heaven yet, but you're not bad enough to go to hell, right? So it's right there in the middle. It's like the waiting room for heaven. Now, that's purgatory, right? So a lot of early reformers are going to step up because no one's going to sit on the sidelines and allow a church to keep questioning them, asking for money constantly, and taking from them, right? They're supposed to be there to give. During the High Middle Ages, the church was doing great things, offering schools, birth of scholasticism, universities, all of these other great things. During the late Middle Ages, they started to take a big dive downward, okay? Because a lot of it became in the interest of power and financial gains, right? So, anyway, let's keep going, though. Erasmus was one of the first guys to get the ball rolling on the Reformation, right? So Erasmus is the father of Christian humanism. Now, Christian humanism is... And staying in Carrboro? Hey. Oh, sorry. Mom texted me. So Christian humanism. Humanism is about like studying the world around you and applying these things to your daily life. So Christian humanism by Erasmus, he is the father of that, is the idea that Christianity should be a guide to your life and how you should lead it and be a moral person, not a checklist of things you have to do to get into heaven. And a lot of people today even still believe that. Father Joe would even agree with a lot of Christian humanist ideas, right? So, John Wycliffe was another guy, though, right? Now, Erasmus did a lot of writings. He got very, very famous. Erasmus is very important. Circle him like 17 times, all right? These other two guys are examples of how the church lashed out against other reformers, right? They're very important. John Wycliffe is another one. John Wycliffe believed the church should give up all of its earthly possessions, right? And that they should like actually just use the Bible and stop worrying about financial gain. Get rid of St. Peter's Vatican. Get rid of the Sistine Chapel. Get rid of all these nice things and just focus on God, right? And the Inquisition is going to burn him at the stake for his crimes of heresy. Ugh. So that's not really nice, okay? Another guy, Jan Hus, right? Jan Hus is a priest who spoke out against the immorality of the church, saying these indulgences are not okay. We cannot keep disenfranchising the poor. And he's excommunicated and burned at the stake for his heresies. Two guys, John Wycliffe and Jan Hus, both excommunicated just for speaking out, right? So, but then this guy, your main man, is going to show up. The guy who really guided the entire church out of the Reformation and started the Protestant movement in general, even though he didn't do it on purpose. Now, anyway, so then this guy, this is an example. Martin Luther is his name, but like you're going to talk about him in a little bit. This dude, Johann Tetzel, shows up. Now, if you hear the name Johann and then a word that sounds like pretzel, he's most likely from Germany, right? So he is a priest sent by Pope Urban VI to sell indulgences in Germany, right? The thing about it is, though, is that Pope wasn't using the money to like pay priests or pay for schools or orphanages. The Pope was using the money from selling the indulgences that Johann Tetzel was selling because he wanted to fix up St. Peter's even more because he didn't think it was nice enough. You know, Pope Urban yeah, like my money shouldn't be used to make your house look better, right? So anyway, the thing is, though, is these indulgences were not only going to get you into heaven, but it was going to get your whole family into heaven that was in purgatory. So he's saying, like, the Cadillac indulgences. Can you do that? No. A priest does not have the authority to sell your family out of purgatory, right? So this guy, young man, a young German priest named Martin Luther, is going to speak up against this. He's like, this is not fair. And no one listened to him, though. So what he did is he wrote his 95 Theses, right? Martin Luther has 95 problems, and the Pope is one, okay? So now, anyway, so a young German priest spoke out against this, but no one listened. So he wrote down the rules that his grievances, his beefs, his wrongdoings of the church. There were 95 of them, and he nailed them to a door of a church in Germany. Now, remember, village life revolves around your church, so everyone in the village saw them. And then a very recent invention called the printing press literally took all those 95 Theses and just shot them out all over Europe like wildfire. It was like the first viral video almost. You know what I mean? Something goes viral and it just gets everywhere. Kind of the same thing. So that is Martin Luther nailing his 95 Theses to the door. So the 95 Theses did certain things. They disapproved of the selling of indulgences. They criticized the Pope. And they looked down on the church for the wrongdoings that they were doing. Okay? So heavy, heavy criticisms of the church. Now, let's keep going. And I know this is moving fast, but just copy it down and then listen, and you'll be fine. Don't worry. I just don't want to take up too much of your time. Now, the Pope is going to excommunicate Luther, of course, right? So, and then the Pope even went so far as to say, all right, we're issuing this Edict of Worms, right? Which declared Luther to be an outlaw and condemned everything he ever wrote. And he said, if you talk to a Lutheran, if you believe in a Lutheran, or if you help a Lutheran, you will be excommunicated and burned at the stake by the Inquisition. Calm down, guy. All right, so anyway, now this unintentionally started a new religion called Lutheranism. Luther never, write this down somewhere, Luther never intended to start a new form of Christianity. He didn't mean to. He just wanted the Catholic Church to fix what it was doing. That was all. But everybody took it a little further, right? So, this new belief system, though, called Lutheranism, guided very differently than Catholicism. Instead of having a list of sacraments, Lutherans believe that through grace alone, the grace of God, since Christ is the real leader of the church, they have no pope, grace alone will get you into heaven. Also, faith alone, belief in God will get you into heaven. And the Bible, the Scripture, will get you into heaven. Those are the only three things you need to do, not the seven sacraments of the Catholic Church. This appealed much more to the poor, because then they don't feel like they're giving money to a figure in Italy. They don't feel like they're have to do anything except get a copy of a Bible. They don't believe that they have to do anything except answer to Christ, right? So anyway, big, big appeal to the poor. So, and this all started in Germany, remember. Now, other reformers are going to come in as well, like John Calvin. John Calvin is a French reformer, and he started this other thing called Calvinism, right? And Calvinism believed in this thing called predestination. And predestination is the idea, it's kind of more conservative than Lutherans are, but predestination says that only the chosen few get into heaven, and not everybody does, right? Calvinism also, church attendance was required, and predestination is when God knows that you're going to heaven even before you are born, right? So that is the Reformation in its foundings, and I know that was really quick, but we will review that heavily tomorrow. Don't worry, I got you. Might bring something in to help you out a little bit. All right, so anyway, but don't worry. We're just trying to get to this test on Thursday. You are doing a great job. We will talk more about this Reformation tomorrow. Y'all have a good evening, Camden Catholic.